fun part. Let's bring our panelists up. If you guys will start making your way up here, I'm going to let them introduce themselves a little bit, but honestly, these four gentlemen are my idols. These are guys that I look up to, that I personally have learned from and trained from, and have helped me get to where I am today. So I literally owe basically my entire real estate business to these four guys right here. These are the kings of wholesaling and investing in Utah. These guys do more than you probably even know. So why don't we start over here with...
I was going to say, let's go right to left. Everybody's okay with that? Who's okay with that? Right to left.
We're actually going to start with Andy to introduce himself. Why don't you guys just introduce who you are, just real quick, how you got here, how'd you get into real estate, just kind of the basic intro, if you would.
So I read Rich Dad Poor Dad years and years and years ago. My parents were both working professionals. Years ago. It was like 20 years ago. And then, they talked about real estate out there. So I bought a house, fixed it, rented it out, sold it on owner finance, learned a ton from that. I called it my tree house. You guys nickname your houses? I nicknamed it the tree house. So that's kind of been the beginning of all my investing. So I've been doing it for about 20 years now. And I buy and sell houses in Utah, New Mexico, and Indiana. Have some rental properties. What else do we do? Some mastermind stuff. It's a digital marketing company. Rental properties. Do some hard money lending. Just basically, I dabble in everything. I'm like all you guys. I just dabble.
And childcare. He's phenomenal.
I'm great with kids.
Yeah, if you need a babysitter, call Andy. Awesome. Thanks, Andy.
Yep.
All right, Jason.
Jason Lewis. So I got my start, I think different than these guys, in working for someone else. So my first 5 years I worked for a company called Blue Mountain, and then went out on my own. That's been about a little over 4 years ago. Same thing, buy, fix, up, sale, do wholesale, and then I have a company called Investor Machine that builds lists and does nationwide mail for other real estate investors.
Yeah, that's exploding. That's awesome. Providing a ton of value for people. All right, Cody.
How many of those Utah accounts can you sell?
Yeah.
He's got those locked down.
I already tried that.
This is introductions only.
Cody Hoffine, you guys may know me as a co-founder of Wholesaling Inc. We built a pretty large platform for wholesaling coaching, and then built one of the largest podcasts in the nation for real estate. And we sold that back in 2020. And we just kind of pushing forward. The new name out there is Joe Home Buyer. So we have a franchise product to give home investors a run for their money. And we're loving every minute of it. Love real estate. I love the change that it's brought to my family's life. In fact, I can go back all the way to these guys. Back when I did insurance, I can go back to many people probably in this room where I insured all their fix and flips. And I saw the money they were making. And it inspired me to want to become someone more. So hopefully you guys are here to be inspired. Hopefully we can leave you with some value, with some inspiration to become something more, because that's what I got from these exact same chairs. Was I left inspired. I wanted to become someone more, and real estate has helped me achieve that.
Nice. Awesome. Thanks. Go ahead, Matt.
Last but not least.
Save the best for last.
Yeah. Matt Oviatt. I own Property Seller Solutions. I buy, fix, and sell property. I wholesale property, and I buy and hold property.
I love it. Simple and humble. All right. Well, let's dive into some questions. And again, start thinking of questions you guys want to ask these guys. We'll open this up at the end. But let's just start. Why did you choose wholesaling? I'm curious. Why of all the different businesses or within even real estate, why did you guys choose wholesaling or gravitate towards that? Now, I know you guys do other things aside from wholesaling, but you all do wholesaling. And then, what are the pros and cons of wholesaling, in your opinions?
I've got a quick story.
Yeah.
So, when me and Andy when we first started the first couple of years of doing real estate, he put a contract on a house in Ogden. Andy, do you remember this?
Which one?
So he said, hey, I've got a guy that's going to buy this contract. This is in 2004 maybe? Yeah, I mean, long time.
You're talking about before the term was a term?
Oh yeah, before wholesaling was a thing, no one had a clue what it was, right? He sold his contract and made $5,000. And I remember walking the property with him, kind of being a fly on the wall the whole process, meeting with the agent, the whole thing. It's like, dude, why are you going to sell this for $5,000? Because I've never been a wholesaler. I've always been a make all the money kind of a guy. It's like, dude, this house is going to make so much money on this. He's like, nope, $5,000, done. It's It's like, that's such an eye-opening concept.
So yeah, so from my side of the story, this was before wholesaling was even a thing. 'Cause now everybody knows what wholesaling is, right? Wholesaling Inc. and you got the podcast and all that stuff. But beforehand, I had this property under contract. I think it was a bank-owned REO property
Sounds right.
in Ogden. And I had it, and I'm like, great, I got this property. I'm planning to fix it, flip it. You guys know what it is. You're going through all the stuff and planning for the colors and all this. And the agent calls me and says, hey, there's somebody else that wants to buy it. I'm like, well, I already got the contract, all right? Like, I'm buying it. And they're like, well, yeah, you got the contract, but they're willing to pay you like $5,000. And I'm like, but I don't own it. And she's like, yeah, I know, but they'll pay you $5,000 to not buy it. I'm like, what? Let's do that. How do we do that? Let's work that out. So we did it. And yeah. I never really thought of it as wholesaling. It was more just like, it's just doing a deal.
Opportunity.
Like opportunities. I look at all these things, of whether it's flipping a car, or it's like loaning someone money, or if it's selling someone a contract, whatever. It's just like, what makes the most sense at that time for you, right? It's different for everybody, but yeah, before it was wholesaling.
So why wholesaling? It's the easiest way to get into real estate, I believe. I believe it's something that doesn't take a ton of money. It used to not take a ton of money. 2015, I remember sending out $1,000 worth of mailers and pulling out like 2 or 3 deals. And now you share that and everyone's like, no, that's not possible. It was back in 2015. But I love it because it's also like the lack of terms, it'd be like the gateway drug. It brings you into the other stuff that really is what brings the wealth. That's such a bad analogy, I know. It sounds like I'm a druggie. But it really was a low entry. You can get out there, you can talk to homeowners, you're looking for just 2 things, equity and motivation, and then you can put together a deal. And it seemed like the people that were doing it, I always looked up to, but I always said to myself, I'm like, if this guy can do it, I can do it. If this gal can do it, I can do it. And hopefully you guys see that. Do not look at us as superheroes up here. If we can do it, anyone in this room can do it. It's just, what are you going to allow yourself to do today to prove it? But I love wholesaling for that. It's just easy to jump in. The cons is, I look at it as like my printer for cash machine, for printing cash, but it's not my end-all be-all. You're still trading time for money. I want to invest that cash into assets that produce money and let my money have babies and make more money, versus time for money. So that's the con behind it. Is it's hard to get to a scalable into wealth.
Nobody says he looked if these guys can do it. He was specifically looking at me. It's like, this guy can do it. And I can certainly do it.
I love that. So what I'm hearing is like Cody said, I love that how it's one of the easiest ways to start if you have no money or little money, right? Or if you can just go out and find a deal and then partner with someone, right? And wholesale. It's quick and easy. And then also, I think that I love what you said about it's not the end all be all. Wholesaling as a business is great. It's a great income producing business, but it is a business that you have to continually feed, right? And do the work. But the idea is, like all of these guys here, they've scaled into other things. They've morphed into bigger deals or other businesses, coachings, trainings, masterminds, all this kind of stuff. So if you can look at it from that perspective, I think that's where the real wealth comes into play. So any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, for me, I really like the scalability of it, and I also like the way the cash flow works of a wholesaling business. So I spent the first 5 years in a flipping business, and there were things that I liked about that. Working for another flipping business, there were things I liked about that and things I didn't. The things I didn't like is cash flow from a flipping business is less than ideal. I mean, you get a house under contract, and especially back then, we don't know what this is like now, but when we were doing our number sheets, we used to project 90 to 120 days sitting on the market before a house sold. Like that was just included in the hard money numbers projection. So, you get a house under contract and 6, 8, 9 months later you get paid, versus wholesaling, I like the much quicker paydays and the ability to build up cash to then use flips as rentals as a way to maximize that revenue and profit. I also have always been really into business, marketing, sales, leading teams and people, and really that's what a wholesaling company is. What the 4 of us do up here wholesaling wise, we call ourselves real estate investors, but we just run sales and marketing companies that happen to be in real estate. When we stop and flip a house, when we hold a rental, we take our sales and marketing company hat off and put a real estate investor hat on, but I spend 95% of my day running a sales and marketing company that happens to be in real estate. And personally, I really like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I always tell people. What do you, they ask, what do you do for work? I'm like, sales and marketing. It's really what it is, right? So the sooner you can realize that and understand that, the quicker you're going to start finding deals. All right, next, what are the first steps to begin wholesaling? We don't need to dive too far into this, but just from experienced investors, experienced wholesalers, what would you advise, a newbie person that may want to start wholesaling? Like, what is the actual first step? How do you actually start doing this?
Get off of YouTube.
So I would say not specific tactics, but just from the highest level, the way I always looked at stuff was you're just trying to plug in, you're just trying to solve people's problems. So the people's problems that are motivated sellers, they're varied, right? You guys have run motivated sellers before. They have varied problems. You're just trying to get in there and figure out what is their problem, what you're trying to solve. And then once you can solve their problem, then the other side of that is there's rooms of people like this that are looking for deals, and that's your problem, right? You're looking for deals. So if you can marry those two worlds, those two universes, so anytime, not just wholesaling, like anytime you can find somebody that has a need, you can fill that need, and this other person over here needs something from that too, you can plug those two people together. You're just a connector that's making those connections. You get paid for those connections, right? And that applies just beyond just single-family houses or whatever, right? It's just anything. This person needs a loan. This person needs a connection to this person, whatever it is, right? So that's how I look at wholesaling. It's just like, how can I fill someone's need and give someone else what they need too, and just be a middleman to that.
Being a problem solver.
Being a problem solver.
I love that. Any other thoughts that you guys would suggest?
Just a thought is, be willing to go out and just make mistakes and just go make a ton of them and fail your way forward. That was my claim to fame. If I could say why I was able to do a deal quick and why I can repeatedly, like, put me in any market, I'll go find a deal. It's because I'm willing to literally go sound like an idiot. I'm really willing to. It doesn't bug me, it doesn't scare me. And so to each one of you out there, I was at a point where it did scare me. I think it's easy to watch YouTube University and get a ton of tactics, build a cash buyers list, go out there and do this, and here's how you negotiate, read Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. That's all great, that's all grand. But meanwhile, we're sitting at home watching YouTube University taking no action at all. Just fail your way forward. Go out and just take action. You're gonna make mistakes, but that's better coaching than all four of us and anyone in this room could ever give you, is just make a mistake. You're gonna learn to never do it again. You're gonna be like, wow, I can't believe I just said that. I would record myself. In Utah, you can. I would put my phone like this. I'd go in a home and I would record the whole conversation. And I'm like, why did they not like my proposal? And on the way home, I'd listen to it and I'm like, I don't even remember saying that. Why did I say that? I sounded like an idiot. It's okay. I didn't sound like an idiot the second time I did it. I learned from just listening. Go out there and make mistakes. It is the best way to go get a deal. Be okay with making mistakes.
As you always say, take massive, imperfect action, right? Cody's full of these awesome one-liners. I love it.
I would actually like to add to that. In my opinion, the best messaging for this question is anything said by this guy right here and his partner, Tom Kroll. I mean, by raise of hands, how many people that have done a deal in this room listened to something Wholesaling Inc. before they did their first deal? Right? Like, that Wholesaling Inc. and what Cody and Tom built mastered the answer of this question. And if I were just starting out, you get off of YouTube, that's great. But if you're gonna be on YouTube or anything else, anything you can find that Cody or Tom have said is gonna get you well ahead.
Love it. What about you, Matt? Any thoughts?
I was actually just thinking about how you got into the business. That's pretty interesting to go and work for someone else, and I can't imagine that was intentional at times to kind of segue in. Maybe it was.
Well, can I talk? I mean, it's a difference in, in our space, we all talk a lot about DISC, predictive index, personalities, things like that. Some people have the personality, like these guys are like, I'm gonna go out and do it, right? I'll, jump out of a ship, jump out of a plane, pack the parachute on the way down. Not my personality. I'm much more risk averse than that. So the only way that it really makes sense for me to get to where I was at was in working for someone else and essentially learning off of, being able to make my mistakes on someone else's dime while making that someone else money along the way was what made sense for me with my wiring. We go into masterminds and it's rooms full of people that are like, ready, fire, aim. That's just not me, so that's what worked well for me.
Yeah. So whether you work for someone else or you have a network of people that are like-minded, that are doing, like in this space, you can bounce things off of and strategize with, that would probably be near my first steps if I were if I had to do it all over?
So to recap, taking action, right? Just doing stuff. Or like Jason said, you know, even if you're more risk averse, right? Learning, whether that's YouTube, podcast, I would say coaches, right? I mean, there's programs, mentors. There's people out there that are wanting to help, right? They're willing to help.
Clay, can I add one thing? to what
Yeah.
I said? So, the start of my story, some of you guys know, back when I started, real estate investors were hard to come by. Andy was one, Kenny at Blue Mountain was one. We actually bought most of Andy's deals back in the day.
I have a funny story about that.
Back when the wholesale...
You lost so much money. You left so much money on the table, Andy.
There was a time where Andy had a one-person cash buyers list. We were the cash buyer. I remember when he told us, hey, I've got to get a bigger cash buyers list. And we were like, no, we're going to die.
50 houses 1 year.
50
houses 1 year. I thought that those front row seats to the Jazz game and the nice watch he bought me, I thought that like I got those for free. Those weren't free. Thanks, Tony.
But, so I hit him up for a job 3 different times, and he told me no all 3 times. And so I said, I'm going to show up tomorrow, work for free, and the next day and the next day, and if I ever become worth something, you can pay me that. And 30 days later, I was finally worth something, and I started getting paid. But it's not like I had my dad knew someone who was a real estate investor, so I got a job. I couldn't get a job in the space. I tried. No one would hire me, so I just said I'd work for free. And that was my way in.
That's awesome.
I think that's a testament to your success. You know, you're willing to do that, where I think a lot of people aren't. They just want the free, easy way in, right?
I was in the medical space, and that's not weird in the medical space. I'd already done 2,500 hours of working for free. In our space, it's weird, but in the medical space, it's not weird.
I worked for free. I worked for a title company for free once, and I went to a title class to learn how to do stuff. I was there with a bunch of searchers and escrow officers, like, why are you here? Because I just want to learn that stuff. And back in the day when short sales were a thing, those of you guys who have been in the market the last 10 years have no clue what that is, but I worked for a guy for free, knocking doors, learning how to put together short sale packets so that I could do it for myself. So I've totally done it. I've worked for free for people.
Love it. Did you have another thought, Matt?
No.
Okay.
Guys, what they just said here is gold, okay? So yeah, I would encourage, again, I signed up for Wholesaling Inc. with Tom and Cody. That's how I got into wholesaling. So Cody is my mentor, okay? So I'm telling you right now, mentorships, partnerships, masterminds, working for free, there's no excuse for why you can't have success in real estate. The only excuse is that you didn't try and you didn't put in the effort, okay? So let's move on. If this will work. Okay, what marketing, again, we don't have to dive too deep into this because marketing is a whole different ballgame, but what simple marketing methods or techniques work best to find deals in your individual businesses?
Can I take this one?
Yeah.
So, actually, there's no silver bullet here. I hope that's not a secret. I would guess that amongst our 5 businesses, there is tons of overlap in all of the marketing channels that we use. With all the free content on the podcast and guys like you that
ruined
megaphone.
it for everyone.
Did you see all those
Not at
things?
all, though, right? I mean, we're just in the era we're in. It's free and it's good information. You can find the good information in the right places. There's not a secret marketing niche or channel out there. So, what works the best is debatable. We can talk about that, but
I think the one you focus on. Whatever you spend most focus on grows. And you'll see that in business. As you start to grow, you'll get to a point where you don't want to do all the deals yourself. You want to bring on teams so you can buy time. The 2 big reasons people get into real estate is money and time, but very few find time. They actually spend more time than they did at their 9 to 5. You can make money in this business, but keep hold to why you really want to get over to this, and that's spending time, how you want to spend time with who you want to spend it with. And so marketing, it comes down to a specific focus. What are you going to do? I would be very, very laser focused at one at a time, but at the end of the day, to be able to scale a business, you're going to have to deploy 2 or 3 marketing channels at all time because marketing is very cyclical. And so when one's down, hopefully the other one's up. So you don't feel the roller coaster of, I'm doing great, I'm doing sad, I'm doing great, I'm doing bad. And it's a real life thing. If you talk to people and like, man, I was doing good for 2 months and then it just sucks for the last 2 months, 9 times out of 10 it's because they have one marketing channel going. You can fix that by deploying 2 to 3 marketing channels.
And I want to emphasize one thing he said, at a time. With doing one at a time. Anybody I know that's like, I'm going to start pay-per-click, direct mail, cold calling, texting, we're going to hit them all at the same time, failed at all of them. Master one as quick as you can, add the next, add the next, add the next.
Yeah, like I said, they all work if you work them. They really all do work. But there's this continuum of like, if you have more money than time, you can deploy it on things that are expensive, like pay-per-click or paying someone to do your SEO or direct mail. We all know it's super expensive right now. But that's more of a, you're gonna get more screen leads that are coming to you. But if you have less money but more time, you can do things like, I mean, you can just go cold call people, text people, like knock on doors or whatever it is. You can take these screen lists and go knock on their doors. That's very aggressive. It takes a lot of time, but it's pretty cheap, right? You can spend your time that way. So, but whatever you focus on will grow, like Cody was saying. So I think they all do work. All of them work. I think we could go through all these different marketing methods. Anybody got one from text messaging? Anybody got one from cold calling? Anybody got one from probably even door knocking? I don't know if people are doing that anymore. But also with us, I'd say we're probably pretty lazy up here now, right? There's people out there right now that you guys are more aggressive than we're gonna be. You're willing to do the things that we are unwilling to do at this point, right? So you can, I think people look at us and say, oh, that's the big guy, I'm not gonna beat them to a deal. No, you're doing things that we're unwilling to do, right? Like, I'm not willing to go and knock on those doors anymore. I've done that before, I'm just not gonna do that anymore, right? So you can get out there and get aggressive and you can find deals, even in the midst of a crazy competitive market, right?
I love it. So focusing on one method and mastering that method. Well, the other thing I was going to bring up is that a lot of times with marketing, we have the thought that, oh, I need to have a lot of money to go find deals. That's not true, though. Like you're saying, you can, for free, you can go out and find deals. It's just about how hungry you are and how creative you can be. Honestly, some of the best deals I've ever done have come from meetings just like this. Talking to someone that has a deal. Maybe they don't want to flip this house, and maybe they want to sell it to you, or maybe they have an aunt or an uncle passed away, and they want to, you know what I mean? Like, there's deals out there if you just get creative and learn how to, we'll call it market, but really market yourself, right? Get your name out there, get yourself out there, let people know what you do. So I would recommend on top of this, social media. It's a great marketing method. Post on social media. Do you guys see that I post on social media? For those who may follow me, we post a ton. Why? Because A, I want to help people out, and B, I want to let people know what I do, because when they have a deal, they'll think, oh, I want to bring that to Clay. He knows he does that. So if you're not letting other people know what you do, that's the first place I would start. So that would be my answer to this too. So let's move on here. So you guys have obviously all scaled very successful businesses, multiple 6, 7-figure businesses. What has been your method to scale your business? That's something I think a lot of us, there may be a lot of people in this room that aren't necessarily newbies, right? That you may be doing deals already, whether that's flipping, wholesaling, buying rentals, whatever it is, but you may be stuck at what's the next step? How do I grow from being a solo entrepreneur or a solo operator? So what has been your method to scale your business? And then how does someone go from a solo wholesaler or whatever, flipper to a business owner? What has been your strategy, your method to do that?
Throwing down, it might be different than what you're thinking, but very crucial. This was something that we learned very early and failed very early on, and that is, who are you willing to become so that you attract the right team around you? And constantly working on me as a leader and not focusing on like finding the team. What you'll realize is you're attracting just the mirror image of who you are. And so if you end up not liking the team that's on your current real estate business, look in the mirror and realize it's because you're that person. You have to work on yourself. Be willing to work on yourself. I spend a lot of time each and every day reading books, listening to podcasts, listening to audibles, surrounding myself with the right people, still being mentored by people inside and outside of the space, because I always want to become someone better so I can lead and guide people to do big things. But at that point, you always hear, go get A players. You got to go have A players on your team if you want to make this work. I agree with that statement. What's not finished about that is you're never going to find A players that are going to stay if you're not an A leader. You have to become an A leader, and then the magic happens is you actually start to attract those A players, because A players are looking for A leaders.
Wow, that was awesome. Thank you.
Totally agree with that. And I think that'd be interesting to find out what personal development wise. I've never talked to you guys about this, but how each of you guys do your things. Maybe that's something we can cover off later.
Yeah.
I would say that's totally true. You do attract the people that you are like. But besides that too, I would myself like 10 years ago, the lie I told myself was I was doing it better than anybody else. And now I recognize there's so many people that will do that better than me. Everybody on my team right now is better at what they do than I was. But at the time I thought, like, I'm just gonna do it because I'm better at it, right? It's quicker for me to do it, I'm better at it, I know better. It's totally a lie. There's people that can do it better than you. So my team's absolutely better than me. Like, I worry about coming on panels like this sometimes. People are like, they're gonna ask me a question. I'm like, that's better for my project manager, my acquisition manager, my marketing manager. Like, I don't know anymore. Like, I haven't done that stuff for so long. I don't know.
Was
so
it-
much better than me.
Was it a belief that you could do it better, or was it a problem with delegation?
For me, it wasn't a problem with delegation. I think it was a mindset thing, it was a belief. And we could talk about my story specifically about who what was, or told me something, but that's what it was for me. And the first person that I delegated to, it came off of a mailer. They were a bookkeeping company, and I liked the mailer because it was like a lumpy mail thing. I was into mail because I was sending my own mail stuff. And it was a lumpy mailer, and I'm like, this is way cool. I'm not interested in their services, but I am interested in where they got this lumpy mail. So I called them up, and I was just like, hey, where'd you get your mail? She told me, but then she spun me into a meeting, which turned into them being my bookkeeping service. And that was one of my first hires, and from that, I hired another person, and another person, and another person, and slowly stepped out of that, on accident, really. This was 10 years ago, and best thing that ever happened to me, that I gave them a chance, and really it's, now I'm not like in any of those active seats anymore. Thank
And
you
even
guys.
if you can do something better than your team, I will still take 2 people doing 80% than 1 person doing 100% all day long.
Especially with the 100% buy-in, right?
Yeah.
So with what Andy said, first off, Andy talked about that changing his life. I dare say that probably has changed directly or indirectly the lives of a lot of people in this room. Andy kind of set the mold and the blueprint for building a flip wholesale organization. I worked at a flip company, but when I left the flip company, the company I was looking at and modeling all of my stuff after was these guys'. His included in terms of like, these are the roles, this is what, what each person does and things like that. So when I started my own, I wanted to build a team from pretty early on. And again, I had good models to go after. So that's the first one, is get a good model. I read a book, The E-Myth Revisited. Its big principle is you want to build like a franchisable business. So like a McDonald's has a cook and a cashier. Same thing with your business. You have an acquisition manager, a lead manager, prospector, whatever you want to call them. You find the roles and then find the person to fill the role. I decided there were 3 skills I needed to get good at to be able to grow. One was setting goals, one was forming habits, and one was hiring. So my favorite book for goals is Darren Hardy's Living Your Best Year Ever. Habits was Atomic Habits, and then Who the A Method of Hiring was for hiring. So I got intentional about developing those skills. What Cody said about becoming the best version of yourself to attract better is important. But then I built a roadmap. I actually had this is my org chart, this day, this day, this day, this day, this day. And I even went so far as once we were a little bit bigger, with our company's quarterly goals, we always had a revenue goal, and we had an org chart that at the start of the quarter had empty seats on it, and the whole team wouldn't get rewarded or bonused unless we hit our revenue goals and unless we hit our org chart goals. And because of that, the best hires, especially if there's 2 things that's hard to find in this market, 3 things. 1, decent construction help. 2, deals. And then 3 would be decent help, period. And the best help is always going to come from referrals. So I went out of my way and still try to go out of my way to incentivize people to refer friends and try to be networking for people, because it's pretty rare that you go post an ad on Indeed and get some awesome A player that's going to help grow your organization.
Love it.
This was my longer answer. I'm passionate about this one.
No, I love it. This is gold, guys. This is gold.
I guess Jason used all my time. So.
That sounds like Jason.
I totally agree with what you guys have said here. So my rule of thumb was, if I could find someone that would do something 70% as well as I could do it wasn't 80. I guess I wasn't quite as well.
Bar, bro, you gotta raise the bar.
Maybe it was 60. No, it was 70% was kind of my number. Then I would bring them in and have them do it. And what I found, kind of like what you were saying, Andy, what I found is that people can do things way better than I ever could. I don't know if obviously I gave myself way too much credit, but I guess I really wasn't that good at very many things. So I'd bring people in and they were way better. And I'd bring someone in and they were way better.
So
and then
true.
we can kind of just continue to grow. But One thing to add, I guess, that hasn't been said is we emphasize processes a lot in my business. We have a weekly, we call it a Foundational Thursday, where we build out a process. We have them all listed, and we go through with whoever is involved in that department to build out that process, just to make it really duplicatable, I guess. In fact, it was funny, this morning I went and I had to send a scan, and I don't know how to use a scanner in my office. So my transaction coordinator, this is last night, the transaction coordinator was like, hey, I'm tired of doing this for you. How about I just print directions on the scanner so I don't have to scan for people anymore, because everyone in the office is going to her to scan, right? Sure enough, this morning I go in, on the scanner is printed like steps. Push this button, push that button. It was like 8 steps, and I do it myself. I said, hey, Militia, I just sent my own scan. It's like, finally. So yeah, well, processes.
The best is how accomplished you felt.
Yeah. This is the happiest I've seen Matt all day.
It's like his first wholesale deal all over. It's like,
Yeah, I did some great things today, but nothing better than sending that scan.
Reiterating the principle, if you can do it,
Anyone can do it. So this is awesome, guys. I just want to kind of recap what they just said, because this is so crucial. I think what they just said, just write this down if you have a notebook. Talking about who you need to become. That's what I've realized too, is that you need to become someone different if you're going to get somewhere else than where you are now. That's first and foremost. So books, podcasts, all that kind of stuff. And then I love how they tied in systems, processes, and organization. When Brian and I started, that was a huge thing. There's a big hurdle of like hiring your first person. For those who have never hired someone, that's a daunting thought and feeling. I know it because I've been there. Thinking of, hey, this person's going to rely on me for their income, for their family, that's a big responsibility. So getting over that hurdle is really hard, and there's no way around it. It's tough because, again, they're going to be dependent on you, and also you're going to think, like Andy said, is this person going to do it well enough, right? They're never going to, and maybe they won't, maybe they will, maybe they'll do it way better than you. But what we started doing is just write down what you do every day in your business. If you're calling a seller, I called a seller, this is what I said, and this is what I did after that, right? So you start just writing down what it is you do, and then that's so easy once you have it written down, or you can record a video. I mean, we started doing that for VAs. Just whatever you're doing already, record it or write it down. And then that's the first step in replacing yourself and teaching someone else what you are already doing and how they can do it as well. So I would say that's the simplest method I've found for like, how do I hire someone? How do I train them? What do I do? Like, I have no manual for that. Well, create your own manual. Just tell them what you do in an organized fashion, and then do what Matt's saying, and then review those processes and fix them over time and refine them and get better, right? So it's a process. It's not a one-time thing where these guys just went out and hired 20 people all at once, right? It takes time, but I love what you guys have said about all the steps to getting there. This is awesome. I'm learning a ton here. I think we have, my mic keeps cutting out. I think we have 1 or 2 more questions, then we'll open it up for the audience, because I want to get you guys, hold on. Where are we? Sorry, here we go. Okay. So what are the top, I don't know, it could be 1 or 2 or 3 tips you'd give to those wanting to start wholesaling or to level up their existing business? I mean, we've kind of talked a little bit about this, but are there some things you guys have found over the years, just like what are some like pitfalls people can avoid, or like, hey, don't do this, just do this. It'll help you out. What are some maybe top tips you guys would give?
Cody said this earlier a little bit, like take more action, massive action. But I would say, because I remember this when I was first starting out, like you don't know what to do. You're just like, I don't know what to do today. So you default to, there wasn't YouTube way back then, but like, you just default, like I would say when in doubt, go talk to sellers. The money is made in this business of finding the deals, right? So I would go talk to either add buyers or talk to sellers.
Yep.
Those are the 2 things. When in doubt, when you're sitting there like, what am I gonna do today? Reread that book for the 5th time. Like, no, go talk to people, go talk to sellers. Or even if you can't talk to sellers or network with buyers, like just other people, right? Other people in this room, like talking to people in this room, finding out what they're doing. And I would also have those conversations, like flip the script from like, everybody's walking around all day saying like, hey, what do you have for me? What do you have for me? Hey, what do you have for me? What do you have for me? I'm looking for this. Flip the script and say like, what are you trying to do? how can I help you? Tell me about you. If you listen more and ask what they need and fill that need, whether it's somebody like, I mean, Clay's got needs. I've got needs. We all have needs, right? Sellers have needs. If you flip that script and say, how can I serve you? How can I help you with your needs? If you help enough other people get what they want, you'll get what you want. So, yeah, when in doubt, go do that.
Love it. Any other advice?
Yeah, I was going to write down.
Just look up the answer on your
I didn't want to forget them, so I was going to start writing them down. I was looking up one of my videos from
YouTube.
The reality for those that haven't started, I want you to just look at why you're in this room in the first place. And I always tell people, pick your suck. It sucks getting into wholesaling and starting from scratch. It sucks. It does. But it also sucks at your 9 to 5. And it sucks thinking that you're going to work there till you're 60 and still not have enough money to retire. And I would rather everyone up front know that pick your suck now. They're both going to suck. So which one's going to suck more? And for me, it was 9 to 5. I could never see myself working a 9 to 5 the rest of my life and then still wondering how am I going to live when I retire and there's no pension, there's no nothing there to back me up. So that's the first one for those just starting. I'm sorry if that was blunt, but just think of it. Why are you in this room if you're just starting? Probably because something's not going the way you want it to go. You have control of that. The second one would be just make sure you have a reason, a purpose, a vision. I wish I would have had this sooner, because it would have made things a lot easier. You're going to get a lot of go pound sand, remove it from your list, F off, everything under the moon thrown at you. And if your vision is to go get a Lamborghini, it's going to be easy to go back to 9 to 5 and go back to comfort, because this will hit you. Those calls are going to hit you, and you've got to have something that's bigger than you, that's outside of you, that pushes you. For me, it was to be able to have more time with my wife and my kids, to retire my dad, who's 70 years old, still swinging a hammer doing construction, and my mom. Retire my in-laws, send missionaries out that can't afford to go on 2-year missions and take them down and go put them on missions. Why? So that when someone tells you F off, I literally smile and say, no worries, so sorry to bug you today. And I can go to the next person with a smile on my face, not a chip on my shoulder, because I look at my parents' faces, my in-laws' faces, I look at 19-year-olds that 2-year mission changed my whole life, and I think of, man, I can go put up with this. I can put up with anyone 100 million times tell me to F off, because I have a purpose that's bigger than me. It's not a Lamborghini. It's not anything to do with just me. Yes, we live a blessed life, but I want to bless other people's lives. And guys, because that purpose has been bigger. A few months ago, my mom started having stomach problems. And I had the opportunity, because I've scaled my business, because I've got uncomfortable, to raise a team that's just incredible, that does their thing because they're part of the culture. They go out and do what they need to do. When my mom was sick and she was given 3 weeks to live from the time that they received the results that she has cancer, I got all 3 weeks every single day with her because I chose this suck. I chose the wholesaling route. I chose the real estate route. I chose to go all in on me and no corporate America. I wanted to invest in me. I wanted to go all in on me, gamble on me that I'm going to make the right choice. And I'm grateful for that, because I don't know if corporate America would have afforded me to be with my mom for her last 3 weeks of her life. So I tell you guys, pick your purpose wise. Dream big. We get this one shot at life. Dream big, play big. There's so many lives out there to bless, and if you have that purpose, you're going to push through any hard that comes your way. Anyways, that's my 2 bits.
Thank you.
Guess I'll go next.
Such a heavy weight on you.
Sounds great. I don't know that I would start wholesaling. Like, if I was just going to get into real estate, I don't know that I would start there. I think the easiest path would be either to get a partner and start buying to hold, or get a partner and flip. I think for me, I can kind of see my way into that better. Wholesaling to me, although it's simple and some people say it's easy, I really don't think it's easy at all. I think it's actually one of the harder ways to make money in real estate. Although it is really simple and there's a lot of sizzle around it because it's fast money, and we talked about the benefits earlier, but for me, I would start in one of those other two places.
I've heard Andy say that same thing a long time ago, right? You did everything else and then you came back to wholesaling last. Cody has preached the message heavy worldwide. Start with wholesaling. It's the easiest, simplest, best. But there are other people, including Andy, that I've heard the message from of like, maybe wholesaling might be the thing you want to do last. And I agree. Wholesaling has its own, significant challenges that come with it.
I'll say, I mean, really, any business does, right? I mean, I was a flipper before I was a wholesaler. There was challenges there, and I was always looking to the next thing. What can I do next? What's the next big thing? Yeah, won't talk about that. But no, I think that's important. That's worth mentioning, though, Matt. That with anything, it's simple, but it's not easy. It takes effort, takes discipline, takes time, and it takes most likely money and sacrifice and stress, right? But it's possible. I mean, we're living witnesses here that you can do it if that's what you want. And Cody, what you said was so powerful. Having a purpose, having a deeper purpose. Again, for me, that's why we're doing this. That's why we're here. Like, we love to help people progress. I love seeing our students, our coaching students, do deals and get excited about, I didn't know this is even possible. Even members of our team, like, that we hire, and they see, like, wait a minute, I can go out and help someone out of a bad situation? Like, this is amazing. This is awesome. It's life-changing. It really is. So that's what I love about real estate. It affords you the opportunity to build wealth while helping people out of hard situations. It's an awesome business.
Any other thoughts?
Go ahead.
So a couple of tips. We've kind of focused a lot on newer people. I'd like to give a couple of tips for people that already have quite a few tips under their belt, but I would say that also applies to newer people as well. So first one, focus on, identify what you're best at. What are you fantastic at? And outsource to someone else that's the best at that thing as much as possible. You have to start as the jack of all trades, but as soon as you can get out of being the jack of all trades, do that. Let me tell you who doesn't do his own pay-per-click. This guy. I would use one of these two companies if they'd let me. Instead, I found another.
I'll do a trade. You give me investor machine. I'll give you Brandon Baker.
I want to know that too.
Is that what we're doing?
And by that same token, I even learned that lesson with wholesaling early on. Even back when I was at Blue Mountain, we were flippers, and I would try to wholesale properties, and it wouldn't go great because we were flippers. And so Stephen Williams was a big wholesaler back then. I gave him a house. I gave him the house. He'd wholesale it, make more than what we would make money along the way, and we'd make money without doing the same efforts. All four of us up here, as well as Clay, we offer to do the same thing. We would love to help you wholesale a deal. You'll make more. You don't have to do the work. I'm a realtor. I don't even list my own houses. I let someone else be the best at what they're at. And then the other part of that is figure out, in exchange for that, figure out what is the thing that you're the best at, A, and B, and this one's really important too, find what you do in your business that energizes you and that you enjoy. In every business, there's things that are draining for a person and there's things that are energizing. And it could be different, right? I would bet that if Cody was on the phone all day, at the end of the day, he'd probably feel energized, and I need a nap. Because he and I are wired differently.
I wouldn't cold call if you gave me $1 million today.
I'm not talking cold calls. I'm talking like, let's say coaching calls.
Oh, coaching calls.
If you did 10 hours of coaching calls, you'd probably end the day feeling great, and I'd end the day feeling like I needed a nap. Life is too short. I mean, there's the initial hustle and grind and do what you have to do. But so many of us, as we grow and scale our businesses, we start to identify with this hustle and grind and do whatever you need to do. And so, it just continues to grow, and this year we net 100, this year we net 400, this year, whatever. We reach a point where we've made significantly more money than what you can spend in a way that makes you happy. But we're still working 60, 70, 80 hours a week. We're still doing the things that are draining. We're still sitting at the dinner table, not present when our kids are talking to us because we grinded so hard during the day. I would say once you've reached a point of overall viability, you've got your staff built out, etc., still go work. The beach isn't as nice as you think it is long term. Anyone I ever know that pursued early retirement made it like a month until they wanted to go back and be a part of and growing something. God created us to build, to grow, create, to progress. But do it through focusing on those things that energize you. And, you know, and working a reasonable number of hours so you can be an overall well-rounded person. And in my opinion, that should be the goal, much more so than the Lamborghini, than financial independence, all those things. And the other cool part about that goal is that goal can be achievable in a way shorter timeline than a lot of our other goals, and even really could be achieved doing your 9 to 5 right. That to me is the ultimate goal and what's most important, and I only figured that out after I pursued all the other stuff for a long time, got it all, and realized that the pot of gold at the end of that rainbow wasn't as full of gold as I thought it was going to be. And luckily I got there young.
Can I piggyback quickly off of that? I've heard people like from my coaching situations and stuff, they're like, hey, I want to do all this stuff so I can make all this money so that I can get time or whatever, so I can go on mission trips and so I can bless people's lives, which I think is an admirable goal. But I want to tell people that even everyone in this room can do this thing right now. Like, what about the good right now? Like, don't neglect the good you can do right now for somebody, because each one of you have something. Like, you can go and give something, like you can go bless the life of somebody. Like, many of you are meeting with private sellers. If you ever been to a private seller appointment and you sat there for like 30 minutes, an hour, or whatever, and you didn't get the contract, how's that feel, right? What I would tell you is, like, how many of you guys have had somebody actually listen to you for like 30 minutes or an hour, give you that, like, what I call psychological error? How did that feel? Remember that last time you actually listened to? Well, what if you went and sat with a seller for an hour and, like, not thinking about what you're getting out of that, thinking like, how can I serve this person? Even if it's just giving them actual, like, listening to somebody that cares about them for an hour, and you don't get the contract, was that a failure? No, absolutely not. Like, that was blessing and serving them in that moment. It's like, why can't we do that? Why can't you have that success along the way as you're doing that? Whether it be your wife, your kids, your team members, or a seller, or whoever it is, right? We can all do that. We all can give to somebody there. So it's like the success is on the journey, right? It's not like the destination. So don't neglect that. Those people that told me that, like, I want to make millions of dollars for what? So I can give to missions and affect the world. I'm like, you can affect the world right now. And your team members and your kids and your wife, whatever it is, right? Like, seriously, I hope you guys take that to heart. Like, don't neglect the good you can do right now. I don't care how much money you don't have. I don't care, like, where you feel like you're at in your life. You can always do that. And the cool thing is, when you do that to somebody else, when you turn outward and you try to bless somebody else's life, like, you will get blessed too, right? Does that make sense? Like, try that. Those of you that are feeling down right now, whatever, like, just look outward and try to serve somebody else. Like, truly care about them for a second, like what they need. And it will, that right there will be like, it's right, that's the best, right? It's the best, and right now.
Yeah, and if, just to add to that, one thing that Jon Huntsman's one of my ultimate idols. Jon Huntsman Sr., incredible business owner, philanthropist, and one thing he always said is, if you won't now, you also won't then. And he was the perfect example of that. I mean, he was giving money to charity and being incredibly giving when he had nothing. And he was still giving to charity and giving back when he was a billionaire. He would agree to make commitments. He would lose that the business would go bust, but he would still follow through on his charitable donations, even when he was poor. Matt and Andy are going to present a cause today. Today happens to be Giving Tuesday. You know, and I would just invite everybody to kind of think about that. If you're unwilling to give now, you're on a course where best case scenario, your income will grow, your expenses will grow. Your car will get nicer, your house will get bigger. Those things can just continue to grow and grow and grow, and pretty soon you're living in a 7,000 square foot house, you're driving a nice car and everything else, but you're in the exact same place that you were when you were making a good deal less because you didn't change along the way. All of this stuff that we think that is going to come on the other end of making it big in real estate and financial independence and everything else, getting to the other side of it just helped me learn that I could have had most of that all along the way.
Tony Robbins says it. He knows where I'm going with this, Cody. You're talking about that. Money amplifies what you already are. It absolutely does.
You would have talked like this, though.
Oh, man. I love it. Wow. What I love about these four gentlemen here, and I think the success they've had is because of this attitude and mindset that they're talking about right now. Notice they're not flexing up here, telling you how many deals they're doing, how big their team is, how big their cars or houses are. It's not about that. It's about helping people, right? It's about doing good in the world and having a purpose. So I love it. This is awesome. One more question, then we'll open it up to the audience. I want to get you guys asking questions that you want answered. So real quick, how do you, let's switch gears a little bit. How do you determine whether you guys keep a deal or wholesale it? I mean, a lot of you guys own rentals, right? How do you do that? Or is that something you do, or what's that process? Because I know the long-term goal is to build wealth, right? That's what we're all about. And then how do we have here, how do you pay your team accordingly? How do you structure your pay to your team, or anything you want to kind of share there?
Mr. Keeper.
Yeah, Matt's Matt keeps a ton of rentals. So how do you determine that?
Which, by the way, you guys don't know this, like, if you've even noticed, like, we're all friends up here. We've known each other for so long now, like a long time. I was wondering that when I tested Clay, like, Clay, do these people understand like how long we've known each other and how good of friends we are? Like, you might look at us and say, oh, these guys have big wholesaling household businesses. Like, we're actually such good friends. We've known each other for a long time. Like history, like 2004, like a long time. A lot of history up here.
I will say, don't let that lesson be lost on everyone here. I mean, you're looking at the five of us could be considered each other's biggest competitors. Like in terms of like by a competitor standpoint, I have no bigger competition than the people standing up here. But I will say I have made far more than I've lost, and I have grown and become far more otherwise by choosing to cooperate closely with these guys than elsewhere. I mean, I currently have an investment with him. He and I hosted a mastermind together. He and I did TV together. In all of these instances, we've made money and become more and better by being close friends as competition rather than by seeing each other as competition. But back to you.
Yeah. So I'm definitely a keeper. I'm really bullish on the Salt Lake market. In fact, the earlier question is how would you start the wholesaling? The first thing that came to mind is I'd probably just start buying to hold. I would give that advice to everybody. Don't wait to buy real estate and wait, is the saying. The hourglass is on your side when you buy and hold property. So we just sent out a wholesale deal this morning. My disposition guy was running through the numbers with me. I had to approve before it went out, and it's always kind of painful for me to send out a wholesale deal, to be honest with you, which I know doesn't resonate with the other four guys up here probably, but long term for me, it's definitely buy and hold, and rather than finding a way to justify a wholesale deal, I find ways to justify buying and holding. So my answers are real clear there, Clay. Sorry, man. But
No, that's great.
That's kind of my lean.
That's where we lean too. So, any other thoughts on that?
So I've got 3 rehab crews, and I do a lot of it really just based off of timing. The nice part about being a wholesaler is I have constant inventory coming through, and when it's getting close to one of my construction crews getting ready for their next project, I pull the home that I would like to keep the most out of the group, and instead of wholesaling that. And at this point, I think in the last 2 years, my realtor wondered what happened to me. I think I've listed 1 or 2 flips. If I'm at this point, if I take the time to remodel anything, I keep it. But on that, I would like to say, when I got into this, I was obsessed with. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad too, and my whole reason for getting into real estate was I was obsessed with the idea of financial independence and living off of cash flow and everything else. And I kind of when I get focused on something, I will hit it sometimes too long. But it finally got beat into me, especially if you're going to invest in Utah, this idea of retiring off of passive income from your rentals, you will probably run out of cash long before you will achieve that goal, unless you have really good investor. So for me, rentals are an amazing place to invest your excess income in a way that it will continue to grow, but maybe not necessarily a great primary business model in Utah that's going to pay your bills today. It's putting money in a bucket that 30 years from now is going to be worth a lot. That's a major investment. But in Utah, trying to live the Robert Kiyosaki dream of living off of your passive income off of rentals is incredibly challenging at our rents compared to values. But because of the way things appreciate, they're great investments. I'd love to be I'd love to hear an opposing side.
I'd love for darts to be thrown at my back.
No, I totally agree. That's our business model. Utah is an appreciation market, not a cash flow market, right? So you have to have that goal in mind and have the ability to pay your bills now. That's why I think wholesaling is great. It's quick cash that you can kind of live on. with the idea of, you're taking those, cherry picking those deals for your portfolio.
But I mean, it was years of pursuing the Robert Kiyosaki dream until I realized, like, not super achievable in Utah, in today's current Utah market.
Any other thoughts on this?
So, not specifically to this, but I would say there's the two things that don't sleep, but I always in mind, the two things that don't sleep are rent and interest. Rent and interest. So you take your extra money and either apply it somewhere you're gonna get rent or you're gonna get interest. I've been doing loans for years. It's just been second nature. It's just like a deal. Wholesale deal, flip deal, rental property loan, it's all the same, right? It's just like, what are you trying to do with it? So rent and interest. And then I haven't been keeping a lot of stuff in Utah recently. The last 4 years I've been investing more in like multifamily deals in other states that make more sense from a cash flow perspective, and from a depreciation perspective too. So we talk about it.
Love it. All right, well, let's open this up for your questions, guys. There's a microphone there because we want everyone to be able to hear your question. If you want to ask these guys anything regarding wholesaling or their business, feel free. Let's make sure that mic is on. Is that on? You flip that switch up. Not working? There you go.
Okay, I was really interested in that last question. Well, the one that was, you answered a good one, but then the other one, like, has a little bit of meat that for me and my partner, because we're looking to start our, actually hiring our first employee this week, and going on and on and on. And we always wonder, like, well, we're kind of like ready, fire, and trying to aim it along the way. So, what are you guys, like, how do you guys pay your people who are working for you, especially when you just started, when you don't want to, it's scary when you're throwing out, like, let's say, $3, $4, $5 grand a month with no guarantee that you're going to make any money at all. So what are some things that you guys did, like how do you compensate your team accordingly?
I'll give you a quick one, depends on the position. I would look at like and love list, and I would make out all the ones that you love to do, and on this side of the page, do all the things you hate to do, and I'd hire your hate list out first and maintain your love list until you can finally start hiring that out. Most people that I came across that would be like, man, I'm gung-ho, ready to go, they usually held onto the acquisition position longest themselves and got rid of like the lead manager / dispo, people to manage their marketing. Some of that can be done with a virtual assistant at $7, $8, $9 an hour. I wish it was back in 2015 when you guys don't listen to that podcast anymore. It's like $3 an hour, $4 an hour back then. It doesn't exist. So yeah, $7, $8, $9 an hour. You can get a great VA to take a lot of stuff off your plate that you hate to do. So I guess my question would be, in return, would be, what position specifically are you looking to hire out?
Well, like sifting through like cold calling, for example.
Okay.
And maybe somebody out there like put door hangers out, things like that. So we can be there, so me and my partner can sit there, and at least right now we're going to be like the acquisition manager. We're going to show up to the appointments at the beginning,
Yeah.
and then eventually if we're big enough, we'll hire that out as well.
So cold callers, you're a good cold caller, $15 to $20 an hour. You can do that by virtual assistant. I would make sure it's no accent, that thick accent. You're in a very white state, as crazy as that sounds. That is not racist at all. I love everyone, by the way. I just want you to know you're in a very white state in the sense of they hear like accent and it just doesn't go smooth. And so it's making sure if you're gonna hire someone across seas, that they really do sound American. 15, $20 an hour will do that. And so that's simple. I would say also limit that to 20 hours a week, because they say they can do 40 hours a week, they get burnt out, you train them, you teach them, and they're good for 2 or 3 months, and they're like, I don't want to do this anymore, and now you have to retrain someone else to do it. So 20 hours a week has been our workflow for cold callers as well. I hope that helps, but you guys probably feel
In my opinion, it's helpful to have sat in the seat before, so you kind of know what good looks like.
Agreed.
That's helpful, so you know what it's supposed to be, so you can help them train that. Now, I like his like and love list. I would say list out everything you're doing. By the way, you mentioned you got a partner there, so make sure that you're not both doing the same thing. You want to make sure that you're sitting in different roles, because if you're both going on appointments, I think that's kind of a waste. But I would say your like and love, like list out everything you're doing. The stuff you like and love is important, but I'd also put a third column there saying, what's the dollar per hour it's going to cost me? Like he said, cold calling 15 to 20. List it out there and then sort it, saying, I love this, so I'm keeping it. I hate these things, so they're going to be over here. Sort it by how much dollar per hour it's going to be to hire that out to somebody else, and start with the lowest and go on to the highest.
Love it.
That'd be an efficient way to do it.
not specific to that position, but for other positions, maybe if people are wondering the same question, when you hire people, pay them as much as you can justify paying them. I think too often we try to figure out ways to not pay as much as we should, or we try and find someone that meets our budget, and then we end up finding someone that's lower caliber, maybe than what our business needs. My experience is that everyone that I've brought into my organization that is paid well brings in a multiplier in value of what they are paid.
Such a good point.
Yeah, so I would just reiterate, I think for the positions you're looking for, like you said, 15, 20 for a cold caller, for a door hanger knocker, again, that's an hourly position, right? When you start getting into the commission base, that's more of your acquisition managers potentially. Maybe you have a salary, a base salary, or, I mean, there's really no right answer. I think that's kind of what we're getting at. There's no.
That's kind of what we're thinking as well. It's like, if they're doing their job, they're making more, of course we want to give them bonuses to keep them on. We want to keep our good people, you know? So if we're making like 20, 30, 40, or, you know, like 6 figures a year off of them, 7 figures, yeah. We want to make sure that they're not like the slave labor, make them feel like, hey, I don't want to be here anymore, you know, give them opportunity to go up, but you also don't want to give away too much, because you want to make sure there's enough for the rainy days and all these different things.
Yeah, the business has to survive so the people, so you can have a business to serve other people. But I also say, like for me, I love being able to bless the lives of the people that work in the business, right? Like I like, you could squeeze people and get more, but like, for the most part, it's good just to like, you know, let them thrive too, you know?
Be crystal clear. The other thing is be crystal clear. Have a budget set aside. So if someone costs 60 grand a year at some point, you're gonna bring someone on, they're gonna make 60 grand a year. Most entrepreneurs will think they have to pay 60 grand. Really what you need to have set aside is 3 months of their salary, and you're gonna just have crystal clear conversations, crucial conversations with these individuals during the interview that just says, hey listen, we've got 3 months to figure this out to make sure this works. I'm confident, based off what you're telling me, that you're the right fit. You're still gonna have to do your part though, and you're gonna have to show me that this is gonna work. I'm betting 3 months that we're gonna make this work. If not, we're gonna have to sit down and I'm gonna have to let you go if this doesn't work. At the end of the 90 days, it's gonna have to look like this. So they have something crystal clear. We hire people too much and we fire people too much, and we don't realize it's our problem. We're not perfect at our communication. We're not talking to them in the way we should. We're not giving them the direct, like, org chart, what they need to be doing, what is their process, their training. We don't have a process. If I went to many of your businesses, you'd say, oh yeah, we have a process. If it's not written down, you do not have a process. I want to make sure we all understand that. If it's not video recorded or written down, it doesn't exist. It has to exist on paper, it has to exist on video. I'm not even perfect at all that stuff. We're now doing all of our process layout, our mapping, all right now, redoing it, because we just had a group come in to really call us out on what we thought was looking great, and they're like, this sucks. And I'll tell you, most fires is a lack of our communication. It's actually our fault. We didn't allow them to succeed or give them the chance to succeed because we also give up too early. I like to give people 3 months, but crystal clear expectation what I want from them in 3 months.
We're really similar, Cody. So everyone that we hire, we let them know that they're on a 90-day trial period. That's just a clear expectation that's set up front.
Yeah, we do the same.
We use the Keller Williams system. It's called 30, 60, 90, where we have, you need to be at this point by day 30, this point by day 60, this point by day 90, and then they either transition in or out. And coming back to your original question, I think salary plus bonus is going to get you what you're looking for. It keeps your expenses low, it keeps them engaged, but it gives them upside. Figure out some type of salary plus bonus structure.
Great question. Any other questions?
Don't be shy, guys.
Yeah, feel free to hop up, guys. We have, we'll probably do questions for another 15 minutes. So if you have a question, hop up.
What's up, guys? Jeremy Davis. All right, so I found my company that I've scaled pretty quickly and a little bit faster than I wanted to, and I feel like my days are just putting out fires every moment of the day. And I'm wondering, for all 4 of you, have you guys come to a point where you actually can sit down and read a book? You can actually go to the gym. You can actually set your day in a schedule to where you don't feel chaotic from the moment you wake up to the moment you fall asleep?
This is so good, because Chris, stand up. Chris is on my team. Chris, what do we do every day midday?
Gym.
We go to the gym.
I can tell.
So yes, and
He goes to the gym, huh?
this guy kicks my trash. So yes, if done right, absolutely, you should be able to sit down and read a book. In fact, if Mark was here, he would punch me in the face if I told you I work more than 2 hours in my business. In fact, Chris will validate it.
For all four of you, was there a moment that you guys actually sat down and said, I need to stop getting phone calls, I need to stop doing this, I need a time block, and like, what was that moment for you guys to actually give yourself a structure to your day?
So for me, it's cycles, right? As his former partner Tom Kroll would always say, you're never going to be totally free until you cap your financial aspirations. I still haven't done that yet, and I still go through the cycle of free, not free, free, not free. The way through it is 100% through proper hiring and training and having other people do it. And I reach a point. I mean, I left when I left the last company in September. I was there in May. I had built Dan Schwartz's essential 4-person wholesaling team, and I had somebody doing everything, and I could work 2-3 hours a day. And then I didn't cap my financial aspirations, and the company grew bigger, and then I was back to crazy, chaotic, answering the phone, couldn't read a book, and then I put some people in place, and then I started Investor Machine, and we tripled it this year, and I'm certainly not there now, but in the Utah company, I definitely am. But it's just done through hiring the right people and making sure that you've trained them, you got things systematized and things like that. You can run, I mean, think about it, some of the biggest companies in the world, and if you look at some of the most successful people, billionaires, you know, you have the Elon Musk type people, but most of them live pretty relaxed, quiet, plenty of time to read a book, lives. They just hire, train, and they live the principle of the one thing, which is, you know, I'm going to do my one thing that's going to move the needle the most today, and I'm going to let everybody else do that thing. And they've gotten past needing to have everything run through that.
That's a great segue, because Andy barely works. I'm really curious to see his answer.
Me too.
I've capped my financial aspirations.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
Oh God,
Not that his,
grand in vain.
not that his net worth doesn't continue to go up, but he's not like
Yeah, I would say Andy's probably the most removed from his wholesaling business, right?
Oh,
He's completely detached. So.
That is a very mature question you asked over there, because I think many of us know so many real estate investors from around the country. We just do. We know many of the most top successful real estate investors. But that is a very good question, because that's what they're all chasing. And really, they're their own worst enemy there, because most people can't let go. They just can't let go. For whatever reason, they're chasing that significance and that fulfillment, and it comes within with more money. They haven't figured out that thing that Cody said, right? Being there with his mom. I mean, when he said that his mom passed away in September, my mom passed away 2 years ago in September 19th. Like, I took a selfie with her every day for 3 weeks too. Like, that was the most important thing to me, right? Could I have made more money doing other things? Absolutely, but like, I look at this and go, there's other things that I wanted more than that, right? So yeah, I can say that, yes, I can go read a book. But that's not always the best use of my time, though. There's other things that are important to me that I want to be there to do that.
Gotcha. One quick question about marketing. I have a feeling probably all of you have had the same pattern. You started off local, you tried to scale outward, you realized that you were spreading yourself too thin, and then you came back, or you figured it out. For me, myself, I'm one of the leaders in another mentorship group with Creative Finance, and so I find myself helping students across the nation with deals and underwriting and all that stuff. That spread us really thin, and now we're pulling back, and we're trying to focus back on Utah and a couple of other smaller markets. What was that for you guys? And again, sorry for specific questions.
Oh, this is so good for me. I looked up to Andy far too much, and he was in Utah, so I wanted to be in Utah while I was here. And then he was in Indiana. I was like, well, if Andy can do Indiana, I'm gonna do Indiana.
I fell into that same trap.
This is an awful trap, by the way. I'm gonna trash myself here in about 2 seconds on this. Andy had a process built around it. I just watched what he was doing and figured, well, why not? That sounds like the next best thing to do. Knew nothing about Indiana, knew nothing about their market, knew nothing that their homes you can get for $2,500. I can't even buy a trailer in Utah for $2,500.
You don't want those homes, do you?
No, and so we get in like the first 2 hours of cold calling. A guy's like, I want to sell 2 houses to you, $2,500. We're like, each? He's like, no, for both of them. I'm like, slam dunk, 2 hours in? Like, this is gonna be a gold rush. Now I know why Andy's over there. I couldn't move him for more than like $2,700. Like, complete mistake. Meanwhile, we had this golden goose in Utah just popping out golden eggs. And we had the team say, I think there's a golden goose in Indiana. And if we go grab this golden goose, we'll have 2 geese laying golden eggs. And this would be amazing for our family. And meanwhile, all the farmers and everyone went over here to find this goose and never found it, and no one was here to manage Utah goose. And we were making less money than we were spending in marketing. We were spending about 50, 60 grand a month in marketing, and there was a couple months we got down to 20 grand in revenue in. That's a bad sign, guys. Like that's a ooh. What do? We cut it out just like we would if cancer was in our body. We killed Indiana and quit following this guy, and we just stuck our lane in Utah, and it took about 2 or 3 months, and we got it back up to doing 200,000, $250,000 every single month.
You have the same story, don't you, Matt?
Did you follow him?
I did. So I was
I'm not the only guy.
So I was in Louisville, Kentucky, because there was a golden goose over there.
It's the best analogy, isn't
Yeah,
it?
dude, that's a good one, man. I'm gonna use that.
I
So,
borrowed it from someone.
It felt like 80% of our efforts were to get 20% of the revenue in that market versus our 20-80 in this market. So we cut that 2 years ago, maybe 3 now, I don't remember, and just focused all of our efforts here, and business has grown exponentially. So I mean, you can't, like, to focus your efforts, it's easily said, but really difficult to do.
Yeah. Going into another market is one of the hardest things. People don't recognize that though. And many people nationwide have tried to do the same thing. I don't know many people that are successful in multiple markets. It's just, they're profitable in multiple markets.
Thanks for telling me that now.
And I've seen as many people die from, one of the mastermind owners will always says this all the time. A lack of focus has killed more entrepreneurs at your space and above than almost anything else. The shiny objects are everywhere. There's money to be made everywhere, and that lack of focus can kill you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, dude.
I bought a property in Scary Gary, Indiana for $2,100.
How's it performing for you?
I just put it for 46. So.
Good job. All right, next question. Thanks for your question. Appreciate that.
That was the best part. So you'd make 2 grand. We were making 20 grand a deal in Utah. It's like, why are we doing this? What are we doing? We made $300, so kudos to you, man.
Well, thanks for sharing, first of all, guys.
Tolbert, he bought one of my wholesale deals and turned it into his home. Are you still there?
I'll always be there.
It is the coolest. How many acres?
Oh, 6.5.
So when you see this home and what it was, just remember it was this wholesaler that found that, and sold it to him at a fantastic price, and he turned it into an awesome, awesome place. I actually want to come see it.
Well, then kudos to you. You were willing to be patient so I could get financing.
Hey, you were the only one that wanted it. I just didn't want to tell you.
It was well worth it.
I had no other options. No, just kidding.
So all of you guys have talked about that you're transitioning, as your businesses have grown, that you're transitioning into buy and hold, and that Matt would even start over in the buy and hold realm. That's what I want to do when I grow up as well. So I'm curious, what asset class excites you guys the most, and what return metric do you rely on most heavily?
I'm a slow and steady, boring guy. Like, I know I probably could have been a billionaire with Apple, Google, Bitcoin. I don't know any of that stuff. For me, it was just like, what made sense was just real estate, rent and interest, right? So I've always just been like, whenever you're investing, there's this risk-reward continuum. You're not going to get away from it. So the higher risk, or the higher reward you're getting when people quote these high things, always know there's a high risk with that. Even if you don't see it, there's always a high risk with that. There's no free lunch out there, right? Except for this is free lunch.
Someone had to pay for it.
Someone paid for it, right? You're the product. No. I tell my kids that stuff. So just for me, it always makes sense, like just getting good returns. Just like don't shoot for the home runs. So for me, I'm like, it's rent and interest, right? So everyone's got their own metrics of what that looks like. I would just caution you, don't get out there and try to get ahead of yourself and try to make $1 million when you've got 10 grand to invest. Just be careful, right? Just guard, like, what is it? Principle first, right? Protect your principle. I don't know, $1 billion, it's probably Warren Buffett or somebody. Yeah.
Well,
Any other thoughts on that? I would just echo, I mean, having bought a lot of multifamily, that's an asset class we like. It's very safe. Someone always needs a place to live, right? I would say that above like retail or office. But again, there's a lot of people that do really well in those different asset classes. So it's where your comfort level is, kind of tying back to Andy, where you're comfortable, what you understand, and what's your risk tolerance. And then as far as your return, no one's really talked about that. I mean, an average return that any deal that we look at, like on a multifamily space, you're going to look at a, low to mid to high teens IRR. So if you can get a, 10, 15, up to 20% return on your money, that's a great deal. Now in Utah, that's going to be different. If you can get 10%, that's an amazing deal.
Sure. So,
Increase your returns by your intelligence too. Like invest in what you know, and then you can get safer returns that way.
Gary Keller has an awesome book called The Millionaire Real Estate Investor.
Yep.
He runs through and it was great. The numbers that he uses in there are like factoring at like 7-8% interest, coming up with the money to put 20% down, getting it like 5% under market value. Like the number, like you don't have to be one of the 5 of us up here getting great results to go become the millionaire real estate investor. Real estate plus time is incredibly powerful, and don't get caught up in needing to get like this amazing deal. I mean, on the way home, I'm swinging by the title company to close a rental loan on one of my rentals, 30-year, fully amortized, 3.75%. Gary Keller's factoring at 7. We can do better than that. And so, yeah, focus in on just acquiring. Start with single-family rentals. Because with some of the bigger things, oftentimes you need financials, and they're going to be looking for you having a history of having debt and paying on it and things like that. So I personally am on a team. A great place to start is single-family, duplex, triplex, fourplex.
Or bringing in on a partner, right? Capital partner, money partner. I mean, everyone in this room would partner with you if you had a good deal. They would bring money or they'd bring the deal, right?
Yeah, I'm interested in knowing what your favorite asset class is. I'm comfortable with how to buy deals and stuff. I'm just curious what your asset class that you target is.
I still really just like single family rentals in Utah.
We're going to start getting into office space. So that one, we have a mentor that we're paying into to learn from who I consider one of the best. We're actually investing in a deal right now in Virginia with them. And that's what I'm doing. So mine's office space specifically.
Awesome.
Tyler, I think it's the beauty about real estate is that there are so many ways to make a ton of money. And I think the asset class is the one that you know really well. I mean, we know guys that are in like warehouse space and office space and industrial buildings and multi-unit buildings, but that doesn't mean I should be there. Like, I don't even know what an industrial building looks like hardly, So my answer is residential, just because I know it.
Yep.
But there's guys that are in our market right here that make the 5 of us look like tiny little fish that are doing commercial deals that would blow my mind. So again, it's what you know. I think that's where you should focus.
Great question.
Cool, thank you.
All right, Dane?
Yeah, I wanted to echo what Tyler said. We appreciate you guys I appreciate having you guys here. I was wondering if you talk about, I love the analogy of the golden goose. I feel like it's a really applicable analogy for marketing. It's really easy to feel like you have a golden goose here, right? And you go chase other golden geese elsewhere. And so I wonder if you guys would talk a little bit about implementing a new marketing channel, like your thought process behind that, maybe a little bit about how you measure it, how you determine when you cut it off, when you leave that golden goose elsewhere and you move on to greener pastures, like how you manage implementing new marketing channels.
Love it. R&D for me is not research and develop, it's rip off and duplicate. And so I like to find someone that's crushing it in whatever it is I'm interested in and literally pay them for their time, and I will go and ask them all the questions I can and find out how to attack it, and then we'll attack it. The other part to that, Dane, is we make sure that we always spend at least 6 months. If we're going to do it, we're going to commit for 6 months, and that's where we've seen the fruits of all of our effort and our investment. Too many times, again, more like employees, we cut the ties too quick, right when it started to get good. We always see it. We've seen this every time on Facebook. The guy digging in the trench, and all of a sudden he's like pissed off at the world, and he's sweating, and the diamond's one more shovel away. And it's like, I was right there. Had I just done one more? And we see that, we're like, oh man, that guy's an idiot. Like he could have just shoved it just one more, and there's a diamond. That's what we do with our marketing. Is we're always one shovel away from the diamond, and then we kill our marketing because it's not returning the first month, the second month, the third month. So time is also crucial with bringing on marketing channels. We give everything 6 months.
Yeah, thoughts? Okay. That's a really good question. Actually, I think too many times people are very unintentional when they start throwing money into marketing. You have to measure marketing, and you have to give it a lifespan as well. So we typically do 6 months. We've done shorter than that in some cases, depending on how expensive the channel is, but we measure it and watch it very, very closely, which sounds really easy to do, but it's not, because you've got other marketing channels that can cloud the water with your metrics. You've got phone system, you've got your CRM. Like, it doesn't take very long you have to spend a lot of time to really accurately measure the performance of a marketing channel. So that's my input, is watch it very, very closely. If we were doing a marketing campaign and we got 3 months in and it was breaking even, we would keep going with it. Just kind of like what you were saying, Cody, where sometimes you just have to give it more time, and then something breaks free and it starts to work. But if it's not working after 3 months or 6 months, we cut it, try something else.
Yeah. I just say it's important to know. It's important to know like lead indicators oftentimes with marketing too, and that's where being in national groups matters a lot. You talk to other people that are in a similar market to you and say, okay, you know, sure, there's ROI, which is the ultimate one that matters, but you know, what should my cost per lead look like? What should my this? What should my this? You know, how should everything? Find someone to duplicate the model. Sounds nicer than rip off. Find someone to duplicate the model.
R&D. R&D. You can't ruin that.
And you know, have good lead indicators that you can track to see how it's going, so you can be making it. Because my goal is, I don't want to get 6 months in and realize, oh, there was an adjustment I should have made along the way. You wanna be, you know, that marketing channel may work, but you may be doing it wrong. I don't want to wait 6 months to know that answer. I want to be able to get that answer as quickly as possible to more likely maximize that I'm going to get the result I'm looking for 6 months in.
Or, oh dang it, we didn't actually give that marketing channel the credit for that deal. We missed that somehow. I need
it all went to the website. The website gets credit for a lot of things.
Facebook's awful.
Yeah, great question. Let's do maybe one more question, and we're gonna kind of go to the next part of the meeting.
Awesome, thanks guys for your input. My name is Daniel. I know in our business, one of the things that we're looking at tweaking is how we leverage our lists more. Lists are kind of the bread and butter of wholesaling. And there's a lot of money in lists that are just kind of left on the table. And so I just wanted to know what tips you guys had on how you leverage your lists more to get every amount of money out of it, as well as like cities or counties or whatever it may be.
Quickly.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Jason's the
Jason's
mad
gonna be the
scientist
list guy on
of
how to
lists.
find crazy, cool stuff that he won't share with any of you. So I thought I would share my answer. To get the most out of the list, remember that people are going to tell you no. They're going to tell you remove me from the list. To us, that just means kick them down the road 6 months. Things change. We've had individuals that have been on our list that have told us, and we wrote down the notes, remove me from your list, I don't want to talk to you ever again, you guys are a waste of time, specifically in the notes. And this was a deal in Texas. Devin, were you on this deal? Were you still there in Texas when we did this? One of our acquisition managers reached out to him, follow up, and he says, I'm ready to sell my home. It was that $1 million home. Right after? Okay, $1 million home that was worth like 1.6. He was willing to sell for 1 million. Guys, we're in the business of change. Things change all the time. We're in a world of change right now. There's plenty of change going on. And because of that change, there's situations going on to homes, because we're looking for distressed properties, or people in distressed situations that we can help out, be a solution to. These problems that are going on with our economy, with our world, those are producing this change where a no today doesn't mean a no 1 month from now, 2 months from now, 3 months from now, 6 months from now. So we maximize our list by never killing our list. We make sure we go through those lists again because things change and we're in the business of change. Now, can you share us how you
let's hear Jason.
those amazing
Yeah,
lists?
I guess I would ask, can you make your question, it was a broad question. Can you make it more specific?
He's stalling. He's stalling.
And before I address, give me
Captain stalling over here.
What's the end result you're looking for from the question?
Mainly how we can get the most out of our list, because right now a majority of our marketing is cold calling, so we'll cold call them, we'll do more cold calling, and then we'll do SMS. On
Now you opened up a different bee sting for me.
Oh, yeah, this will be fun. Okay, I got this. Okay, so your list. So cold calling your list. So obviously the first is you want to figure out what's going to get you the, I heard a very wise man years and years ago, who's sitting to my right, use an example of a target. Where you've got your inner target, my right.
Oh, looking at the stage.
Andy McFarland talked about a target, right? You've got your inner target, your people that are most likely to sell, outer. The first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that your inner, that you want to know, you can't treat every name on your list exactly the same, right? If you've got somebody that's a probate notice of default and they just had an eviction, and you've got somebody that's just an absentee owner, you don't necessarily want to treat those two the same. So you need to figure out some type of way to know, to score your list from best to worst. Batch Lead Stacker is a really good software that a lot of people use that allows you to kind of, and then they actually even have a dialer that you can work in with there as well. Their dialer is just okay, but their list management is excellent in it. So first, know how good your best to your worst list is, and then take action appropriately based off of that. You don't want to treat them all the same. Other thing to realize, of that list that you have, who did you skip trace it through? IDI?
Yeah, right now we're going through National Data Source.
Okay, which is probably third party going to IDI. So so if you give them 10,000 names, you are going to have 5,000 where you have the right seller with the right phone number. And guess what? You have the same 5,000 as Matt, as Cody, as all the rest of us, right? There's 5,000 people sitting there that don't have the right name, right phone number. There's true gold in what I call the other half. So from there, you want to take that other, so you want to know, okay, who did I not get a hold of? What were wrong numbers, what were people that never answered, and go find other people to potentially skip trace that other list through, or focus and nail on that other half. Or, there could be any number of ways that you go, but there's so much inefficiency in data and lists. I mean, when you pulled that list from ListSource and PropStream, it was 90% accurate at best. Then you took and skip traced it, you got 50% accurate at best. All of that stuff that's not accurate, there's incredible gold in that, and I think you could definitely maximize that other half rather than just beating to death the same half that you get and bugging them over and over and over again.
I also think the same marketing channel. Everyone responds different. There's different personalities out there. Dane, I use this story all the time. We went to the same title company, and he was coming out with a smile on his face from ear to ear. I was going in to pick up a check because they didn't want to wire that check or something. Dane's walking out, I'm like, what are you doing here? He's like, I just closed on this deal. And I said, awesome, let me see it. I'm looking at the HUD, I'm like, $75,000? Holy smokes, tell me about it. He's like, well, I cold called this guy, and it was in Salt Lake, and he's like, no one wants this. I have 500 postcards here, and no one will want this house. It's a piece of crap. And Dane's just like, whoa, like, this is a good one already. And so he sits there and talks to him. The guy says, yeah, I don't know why you'd want it. I mean, if I get 50 grand for it, Salt Lake City, 50 grand? He puts it under contract, moves it a few days later for 125 for 75,000 profit. Now, why did I want to see the HUD? Because I wanted to be genuinely excited for him, because I was. I also wanted the name on that list so I could go back and see how many times I mailed that guy. No less than 5 times. He didn't respond to me. Dane picks up the phone and gets the call. Now, to your benefit, you're doing that channel. But my point is, how do you get more out of that list? Mail to that same list. You're going to activate other personalities that are going to respond to that saying, I want to call this person that's not picking up your phone calls.
Great question.